So I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I've been working in the field for over 22 years as a therapist and a group facilitator and presenter. And procrastination is a very popular topic. So something that I think everybody can relate to. We've all struggled with procrastination at some point or another. And my hope is that today you can get out of this some insight into why you might be procrastinating. And not only that, but hopefully a handful of tools and strategies that will help you to move through your procrastination. So we're going to look a little bit at the root causes, what tends to be some of the underlying issues behind a procrastination, and then hopefully have you leave with a bunch of tools that will help you to be able to get to a better place with it, to be able to tackle those things that you've been putting away and not able to really get to. So feel free to post in the chat if you have any thoughts or questions along the way. What is procrastination? So I like to talk about what is procrastination, give you a little definition before we jump into the underlying root causes of it. So essentially, we all know that we delay when we're procrastinating, right? Delay. But also, it is a strategy. Whether or not we're aware that we're using a strategy, procrastination is a strategy that helps us to avoid being uncomfortable, and it helps us to protect our self-esteem. So like any behavior, procrastination serves a very distinct purpose, and we're often not aware of that. We think of procrastination as being some annoying habit that we have, but it ultimately is serving a purpose for us. And if we can get to the root of that and understand what that purpose is that it's serving, then we can learn to move through it and to be able to work on eliminating and reducing our procrastination. So there's a great book, if you haven't read it, it's called Procrastination, Why You Do It, What to Do About It Now. And I highly recommend this book. It really helped me to get some more insight into why I procrastinate and to help other people to do the same. It outlines the most common underlying issues, reasons why we put things off. And you might find it very helpful. I've here put together the top 4 reasons. So top 4 reasons why people tend to find themselves procrastinating. And I want you to think about what might be relevant for you here. What are the things that you're pushing off and why? And do you relate to any of these reasons? So try to apply them to these life circumstances where you find yourself avoiding certain tasks. So one of the main reasons people procrastinate is to avoid stress and discomfort. So I like to look at procrastination as not that you're avoiding a specific task, but you're avoiding the way that task makes you feel. So generally, we're creatures of comfort, right? We don't like to be pushed outside of our comfort zones. We like to maintain a sense of comfort and stability. And when certain tasks bring out uncomfortable feelings in us, whether it's stress or anxiety or boredom or insecurity, we're going to tend to avoid those. It's a more difficult choice to work through those feelings and accomplish those tasks. So what if this is your underlying cause for avoiding something, avoiding stress and discomfort? How do we help you to move through that? Well, these are some suggestions I have for people that are avoiding discomfort or stress that comes with tasks. Try to counter the feelings that you expect to have. So for example, if you expect to be stressed when you're doing this task that you're avoiding, then you're going to want to try to help to create a relaxing and calm environment. Maybe you play some relaxing music, maybe you have a warm drink, set up a comfortable space, maybe a cozy blanket. The idea is that you're trying to counter the feelings that you're avoiding. If you expect to feel insecure when you're doing a certain task because maybe you don't feel like you're really that capable or competent, list out your strengths, your reason why you'll be successful at this task, and try to practice some positive self-talk that will help you to be more confident and feel more capable as you're going through this task. So the goal here really is trying to counter those feelings that you're avoiding while you're procrastinating. And that's a really common reason why people procrastinate. Why else do we procrastinate? Well, perfectionism. This is a big one. See if you relate to this one. If you tell yourself that if it's not perfect, you can't do it at all, then you may be a perfectionist. Perfectionists don't like to do anything that's less than exceptional. So if you can't find the right words or the right ideas or the right time, situation, then you're likely to avoid doing that task. There's this immense pressure that people carry inside of them when they have this perfectionist tendency. Pressure to just be perfect, to do everything just right. And if they don't feel like it's just right, then they're not going to do it. And when you're a perfectionist, mistakes really are unsurmountable. You can't get around a mistake because if you make a mistake, then by default you're not perfect, right? And what you have is flawed. And so when people make mistakes and they're aiming for perfection, then typically they stop. So people who have this problem, you might start a situation, you might start a task that's uncomfortable, but as soon as you hit a roadblock, you stop. And it's because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to successfully and perfectly conquer that challenge. So what if that's your problem? What if you have a real struggle with perfectionism? How can you work to overcome that? Well, I like to talk about the growth mindset. You've probably heard about this before, the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. People who have a fixed mindset feel like we just are what we are. We have the strengths that we have and we have the weaknesses that we have. And that's just the way that it is. But if you have a growth mindset, you very much believe in and focus on your ability to grow and learn and change and evolve. And so when you have a growth mindset, mistakes don't seem so scary and so intimidating. We're more willing to take on challenges and to try new things and to tackle those tasks that may bring up some insecurities in us. So believe in your ability to work through challenges and to learn and to grow. And if you make mistakes, it's okay because it's all part of the process. And when you have a growth mindset, mistakes actually help you get to a deeper understanding and a richer and more meaningful experience. And another thing you can do if you struggle with this procrastination issue of perfectionism is try to develop a more compassionate and less judgmental inner voice. So people who are perfectionists often are very successful and have done a lot, accomplished a lot in their lives, but it's not without some struggles. There's this internal voice that just is exceptionally harsh, a voice that tells them that they have to be perfect in all circumstances and situations and doesn't allow for any human error. And so people who struggle with perfectionism really need to work on just being compassionate with themselves and not judging themselves at every moment, and developing an inner voice. We all talk to ourselves, whether or not we realize it. There's always something going on in our minds. And to develop a softer voice, a voice that tells us that, hey, we're okay, we're doing a good job, we're moving forward, we're making progress. Everything doesn't have to be perfect all the time. So just work on being a little bit more gentle and kind with yourselves. Reason number 3, this is a big one, fear of failure. So you've probably heard of this one too, right? The reasoning behind this one is the expectation is that you're going to fail. The fear is that you're going to fail. And if you don't try to do what you're avoiding, then you can't fail, right? So if you do try and you fail, then that means something about you. That means that you're not capable, you're not competent, you're not good at this. But if you don't try and you don't fail, right? You don't succeed either, but you don't try and so nothing happens. Well, then that's a way of us maintaining our confidence, our belief in ourselves, right? You can always say to yourself, oh, well, I didn't try, or I didn't put any effort into that. Oh, I blew that thing off. And then that maintains our sense of confidence and our belief in ourselves. And so if this is your struggle, you're afraid of failure, you're afraid that you're not going to be able to do what you're setting out to do, then try these things. We want to develop a core belief in ourselves. So instead of expecting failure, we're going to expect success. We're going to expect that we're capable and competent. And so it's changing the way that we view ourselves from being expecting ourselves to not be able to do something to expecting that we can. And that's just a real shift in your mentality, a belief, developing a core belief in your competence and that you're capable, even when you hit setbacks or challenges, you're capable of working through those. As you can see, a lot of these remedies have to do with changing the way that we think about ourselves and our abilities and our competence. And then finally, redefining success. So think about what success is in a different way, right? So you can have success even with having many failures or setbacks, right? If things don't always go the way you wanted them to, you can still be successful. And there are lots of ways that we can be successful. So sometimes we have just an end goal in sight. And if we don't achieve this end goal exactly the way that we want it to, so then we're going to be failures. So instead, for example, if you have a goal of running a marathon, and you set a certain time for yourself, you want to accomplish it in this amount of time, let's say 4 hours. And if you don't accomplish it in 4 hours, then you're a failure. Instead, maybe you just redefine success as completing the marathon in a whatever shape, form, or fashion that is. So being a little bit more gentle with our expectations for ourselves. And reason number 4, fear of success. Okay, this is a really interesting one that people often do not think about. But when I really pick apart people's procrastination with them, I often come to this one, or I should say sometimes I come to this one. Okay, it's not always there, but it can be, and it can be sneaky because you might not be aware of it. Sometimes it's not that we are afraid that we're not going to be able to do something, but we're afraid that if we do accomplish our goals, that we're not going to be able to sustain. And so if let's say you're heading for a career advancement, a job promotion, you might feel like maybe you can get it. But what if you do get it? Are you capable of maintaining the success? Are you capable of upholding all the responsibilities that will come with that? You worry about the increased pressure or the expectations or the commitment that's going to come with success. So think about if you relate to this one. If you have any of these types of doubts or questions, maybe you're afraid of succeeding. Do I really know what I'm doing? How much time and energy is this going to take? Will I be as good as other people who do this? And am I capable? Think about those thoughts there. Do you have those thoughts? Are you afraid, not that you can't do something, but that you can? And then what? This might be your reason that you procrastinate. So I'd like to put this into action. Before I put into action, let's talk a little bit about if that's your problem. If your problem is that particular issue, that you're afraid of succeeding, what can you do about it? So if you're afraid of success, I want you to remind yourself of your past successes. Think about times when you've accomplished and achieved things in your past that may be similar to what you're heading out to achieve now. And I want you to take a look at and try to see the strengths that other people see in you. So if you've been put in a leadership position and you doubt yourself, you question whether or not you can rise to that challenge for that occasion, there's a reason why people are putting you in a leadership role. There's strengths that they see in you that you're not seeing in yourself. Try to see yourself through their eyes. And lastly, I say talk back to your self-doubt, right? Just remind yourself when that doubt starts to creep in, remind yourself of your capabilities and your strengths and why you have the ability to maintain success. So let's put this into action. I want you to think about a time when for something that you're procrastinating on. It's ultimately procrastination it's a failed coping skill, right? It's a coping skill that we use to try to make ourselves feel better. We're avoiding feeling uncomfortable or bad about ourselves. But ultimately, it makes us feel inadequate. It makes us feel stressed, guilty, it makes us feel like a failure, and it builds tension, right? So it's a failed coping skill. We want to try to find more healthy and productive coping skills. So changing the way you view yourself and the ways I've talked about is really helpful. I want you to think about something that you've been procrastinating on and ask yourself, are any of these 4 reasons factors in your procrastination? So are you procrastinating because you're avoiding stress and discomfort? Is it because of a perfectionist tendency, a part of you that just needs to be perfect and need to be seen as exceptional? Is it because you're afraid of failing? You just don't have the confidence that you're going to be able to do something successfully? Or is it because you're afraid of being successful and then not being able to sustain? So ask yourself, maybe you can jot it down on a piece of paper. What are you procrastinating on? And which of these 4 or maybe multiple of these 4 are factors. And anybody can feel free to share if they want to post in the chat. But it's mostly for you to just be able to get a sense, get some insight into why you're avoiding the tasks that you're avoiding. All right, so I have some basic tips, tricks, and hacks, some strategies that you can use today, tomorrow, next week that will help you to get the ball rolling, that help you to push through your procrastination, strategies and little tools that help us to get stuff done. So the big things I've just talked about, those are the underlying root causes and changing the way that we perceive ourselves and talk to ourselves and think about our strengths and our challenges. Those are all really big, important issues. And that takes a lot of work, right? I want you to be thinking about that and addressing those underlying issues as you're working through procrastination. And these strategies that I'm going to share with you, these are just really quick things and easy ways that you can tackle your avoidance behavior. So I have something in the chat. It says, what about procrastinating? Because since you didn't do it, now it's even harder to do. You have shortened your timeline to nothing. If you had done it before, you might have been successful. Very well put. Absolutely, right? So as we procrastinate on something, we build pressure and stress. We realize that we're losing important time to be able to do something. So the more we procrastinate on something, the less likely we are going to do it because we have wasted a lot of time, right? So we do run out of time. And a way that you can, a good sort of remedy or counter to this is setting deadlines. So unfortunately, many of us are deadline driven. And I say that unfortunately because, I think the goal is that we don't want to be deadline driven. We want to be able to just do something because it's important to us or because we have this internal drive. But oftentimes deadlines are what push people to actually get stuff done. So a remedy for this particular problem, Carol, is set deadlines for yourself. And you can hold yourself accountable by giving those deadlines to other people, whether it's a coworker, a boss, a significant other, a friend, giving them your deadlines and telling them, hey, this is my goal and I'm going to accomplish it by X date, and check in with me and I'll let you know how I'm doing on my progress. So the deadline can be a helpful way to keep us accountable and keep us pushing forward. Whereas we might not pull an all-nighter or put in those extra 3 hours after work to work on a goal. We may if we have a deadline. All right, what other tips, tricks, and hacks do we have? I like this one. You don't have to feel like doing something to do it. So basically, a lot of times we lie to ourselves and we tell ourselves, well, I don't feel like doing it. I'm not going to do it. I don't feel like going for a jog. I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch a show. Or I don't feel like going out with my friends tonight. I'll push it off to next week. Just because you don't feel like doing something doesn't mean you don't have to do it, or doesn't mean it's not good for you. And in fact, usually when you don't feel like doing something is when it's best for you to do it. So if you find yourself using this kind of reasoning, like, oh, I really don't want to do that task, remind yourself, well, just because I don't feel like doing it doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. And in fact, because I don't feel like doing it means that I should do it, right? Then you get it done and you don't have it hanging over you for the rest of the day or the week. So challenge that line of thinking, right? Don't let yourself just be fooled into not doing something because you don't feel like it. I really like this strategy, and this is one that I use actively every day. Make a to-don't list. So this is, many of you probably have a to-do list, right? The list of things that you should do or need to get done in any given day. Well, this is the other part of that. It's the to-don't list. We all have things that we like to do when we're procrastinating. And so this is the list of the things that you do when you procrastinate instead of doing the tasks you need to do. So maybe you surf the web. I personally like to clean when I'm procrastinating. It makes me feel like I can justify it because I'm doing something productive. So I have cleaning on my to-don't list. I have texting on my to-don't list because when I'm avoiding a task, I suddenly start to think, oh, I wonder how so-and-so's doing. Let me check in with them. And I'll start to text, and then I'll get on my group chat and I'll start texting them. So what would be on your to-don't list? Think about the things that you want to try to avoid in order to get stuff done. Okay, so Michelle says, normally I just do it. Just do it is a favorite line of mine. I prefer to tackle things I don't want to do first, and then I'm free to be available for any activity or things I may like to do. I really like that strategy. So I call that worst first, do the worst first. And it's really great when you have the most energy in the morning. Also is a great time to get stuff done that you don't want to do. So worst first to get it done in the morning, and then you have the rest of the day to be free to do other things that you would rather do. So great, thank you for sharing that, Michelle. So think about your to-do list. Maybe just jot down right now 2 or 3 things that you can put on your to-don't list. Sorry, your to-don't list. What's on your to-don't list? What do you want to try to avoid doing when you are trying to get stuff done? Online shopping is a common one I see. All right, the 5-second rule. This comes from Mel Robbins. There's a book, there's a great TED talk on it. This is a very simple strategy. And this kind of relates to what you're saying too, Michelle, but basically it's just you think of something that would be good to do. So it would be good to go grocery shopping and buy some healthy foods right now because I have nothing in my refrigerator. But you're conflicted, okay? So maybe you don't have motivation or energy or just the confidence or enthusiasm. So you're conflicted about whether or not you should do it. So what you're going to do is you're going to count backwards from 5, and then you're going to act. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just do it. So what you're doing is you're taking the thought out of the situation. So you're just calling into action, right? So you're just jumping into action instead of overthinking and analyzing and coming up with ultimately excuses and justifying why you're not getting done what you want to get done. So this is not the 5-second rule that's like, oh, if you drop something on the ground, you have 5 seconds to pick it up and it's not contaminated. This is a different 5-second rule, but it's a super helpful one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just do it. If you're lying in bed and you're unmotivated to get up and go to the gym, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up and do it. All right, somebody says reorganizing is top on my to-don't list. Yes, reorganizing. That's just like similar to my cleaning habit when I'm avoiding something. Definitely, and we can sometimes justify reorganizing or cleaning because it seems productive, but ultimately can take us away from what we want to do. Thank you. All right. What other strategies do we have? Focus on what you can do. So as procrastinators, we often focus on what we can't do and why, right? We have all these reasons why we can't do what we're supposed to be doing. Oh, it's too late. Oh, I'm too tired. Oh, I really need to check in on so-and-so. Oh, there's always tomorrow. There's lots of reasons why we don't do what we need to be doing. So instead of why you can't do it, think about what you can do. And find tasks that are small enough that you can do. So maybe you can't complete a whole task that you're setting out to do, but maybe you can complete a portion of it. So let's say you're writing a novel. I can't start writing a new section because maybe you don't have enough time or energy, but I can edit a section I've already written. Or maybe I can't go to the gym, but I can go for a 20-minute jog. Okay, so think about what you can do. Every time you say you can't, replace it with a can. All right, somebody says, I use the eat the frog method. The thing I want to do the least, I do first. God knows where that saying came from. Yes, thank you. Eat the frog. Yeah, you do the thing. I think that comes from just the idea of eating a frog is really gross and horrible. And so you're going to want to do that first. Absolutely. Or like I said, worst first. Thank you. That's a really good strategy, Colleen. All right, what else can we do? Other strategies. Turn your excuse into a reward. I love this one. We have all sorts of excuses, other things that we want to do instead of procrastinating, instead of doing our task we're procrastinating on. So for example, I'm going to take a nap first. Or, oh, I'm just going to go for a jog and then I'll do that awful task I don't want to do. Or after I watch the show, then I'll. And so what you're going to do is you're going to flip the order. You're going to first do the task you're avoiding, and then you're going to reward yourself with what would have been your excuse. So you're going to do the task you're avoiding. Let's say you have an RFP due Friday. You're going to put in an hour of power on that, and then you're going to take a nap. So instead of taking a nap, you're going to do the work. The reward is the nap. Okay, so instead of texting a friend and checking in on them, the reward is checking in on them after you've done the hour of work. I really like that one. Behavioral goal is all about setting a measurable, obtainable goal. So when we set a goal for ourselves, we want it to be something that's observable, like something you could actually take a picture of, something that you can, once you've done it, you can actually see what you've done. Okay, so instead of, well, I'll use my RFP example, instead of saying, complete the whole RFP, complete section 1A of the RFP. We want to make really small steps. Half of the reason why people don't accomplish the things on their to-do list is because they are too big. So we're going to break them down into steps that are small enough for us to actually be able to accomplish. There's something really positive and reinforcing about checking off a box on a to-do list. And setting target dates and times is really helpful. Okay, so again, the deadline factor, giving yourself a deadline can be super helpful. And when you're setting goals, you want to be able to do something that you can get done in just 5 minutes. Set the first step as something that you can do very quickly. And the idea is that we just want to get something done, even if it's just a very small factor, something you could check off, something that gives you a little bit of confidence, gives you some momentum, makes you feel like you're moving, because it's sometimes that activation energy, just getting the energy to get something started that's hardest. And once we get started, then we feel like we have some energy and we can keep going on it. So I like to say this, life by the yard is very hard. Life by the inch is a cinch. So think about how you can just break down your goals into smaller steps. And you might find that will help you. That will help a lot with your procrastination because it'll feel more manageable for you. I really like this strategy. I use this a lot in my clinical work. The idea is you act as if you are feeling the way you want to feel. Okay, so for example, if I'm feeling so tired, I have no energy to get any of my work done, things that I need to get done, I'm going to act as if I have a ton of energy. So I'm going to act like energetic people act. I'm going to act in a way that feels lively and alert. And so I have to think about what that would look like and feel like, and I have to try to recreate it. So think about how you're feeling, how you want to feel, and try to act like you're feeling that way. And what eventually happens is you actually do end up feeling that way. You start out acting, but eventually you end up actually feeling the way that you're acting. So if you feel stuck, you're going to act creative and productive. So you're going to say to yourself, oh, I feel so stuck today. I have no energy or no creativity around getting this task done. What can I do? Well, you can act creative. So maybe I'm going to listen to some music that's upbeat and inspiring. Do something that will give me some inspiration, like maybe do a little bit of research or do something or get moving a little bit in a way that'll help me feel like I'm energized. And maybe have a creative outlet like writing or drawing or journaling that will help me get unstuck. I'm going to act in a way that feels like I'm not stuck. And eventually I won't feel stuck. Somebody has a comment here. Similar to behavioral goals, to-don't list, I try to use the Pomodoro technique. Oh, the Pomodoro technique is great. The Pomodoro technique is just a great time management strategy. So basically, it's described here as 30-minute intervals of uninterrupted work, avoiding distractions, and make sure for each session I try to have a few items on my checklist I can complete quickly to get momentum going. Okay, so it's setting a timer for 30 minutes or 15 minutes and being able to get a chunk of work done, taking small breaks, 5-minute breaks in between each of those sessions. And then after a full, say like 4 cycles of that, then you reward yourself with a longer break. So setting your timer 15 or 30 minutes, take a 5-minute break. Do it again, take a 5-minute break. Do it again, 5-minute break. And the last time you're going to give yourself a longer break, like a half an hour break. So it incorporates just rewards and structuring your time. It could be really helpful. Thank you. Good idea. All right, pay attention to your physical space. We're running a little bit short on time, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but just to say that You want to create a space that's going to make you feel the way that you want to feel. So it's going to help you to feel relaxed and comfortable and confident. And the last thing I want to talk about is spending time with positive people, because this is really important. The idea that the people around us make us feel certain ways, whether or not we're aware of it. And the saying from Jim Rohn, which I really like, is you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, is so true. That over time, whether or not we want to, we end up adopting a lot of the same feelings and thoughts as the people around us. The Framingham Heart Health Study was really interesting and found that people who are healthier tend to be connected to people who are healthier. So people who don't smoke and eat healthy and exercise are more likely to choose to spend time with people who do the same kinds of things. So even affects our healthy behavior choices. So think about surrounding yourselves with positive people, people who are motivated and inspired and connected and engaged, because that will be infectious. That in turn will help you to feel motivated and inspired and engaged and keep you accountable. So try to visualize yourself being productive every day. Visualization is a very powerful tool that can help you to experience what it's like to be productive and also help you to put that into practice. Set aside 5 minutes every day just to visualize your productive day in the morning, and you might find that can have a really big impact. So thank you for joining us. Procrastinators of the world unite tomorrow. Any thoughts or questions? I'm happy to answer. Very welcome. Thank you all.